crazy. Let's introduce these guys. Spawning down in the bottom position for Clash Esports. He is REYNOR.
And in the upper right, from South Korea, the teamless Terran in the blue, he is BYUN. Is my audio all good now? I'm not flaking out all of a sudden.
No, I think it was just Discord borking on your end a little bit there. No big deal because we do have pretty standard opening. Like I said, I would never expect a spawning pool in game number 1. And I think in these best of 3 series, it's kind of more expected that you played a little bit more standard just because you really risk so much more when you try to go for that aggressive cheese, cheddar. But what I do like out of BYUN is that we've been seeing this out of Terran players. Instead of going for the Reaper, they just go straight for the first Marine and then straight into Reactor. It just keeps them a little bit safer versus a Zerg player, and Protoss too, I might say. And
well, you know what, Pastor? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. It's just a little bit safer, and getting that factory up nice and early is going to make sure that he doesn't fall behind in tech. We probably will see the 3CC though out of BYUN.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not even a I'm going to be safer thing. I think what players have realized at this point is Reapers honestly don't get a lot done. They don't tell you all. They're nice scouting and they do, oh, yeah, give me the third timing, whatever. But they don't get a lot done. And if you don't spend the gas on the Reaper, well, you get your factory faster. You get your third command center faster. All of these things, whatever, you get into your tech faster, whatever you decide to do. And well, when you're playing against REYNOR, and especially, do you remember what was this on Central? Was this game number 1 on Central?
Let me check. This one is on the Central United States server.
Yeah. So, well, BYUN has a ping disadvantage as well. There's no point really going for a Reaper, not here. And that's not to say that this is the defining idea. This is the reason that BYUN has gone for no Reaper in this game. This is a build that BYUN actually goes for quite a bit. As he skip that Reaper, get that gas a little bit faster, get on into his pressure just a little bit more, because he says, you know what, I don't really care about this Reaper in the early game. If I can get on into my pressure in the mid game that much faster, well, that is going to be fairly nice for me. As well, we're waiting to see what exactly happens. REYNOR, he's taking his third base on time, and we're in the early game doldrums of a ZVT. It's kind of funny. ZVT by far my favorite matchup. I think a lot of people will say the same. It's just a really dynamic, really impactful matchup, but
Ooh.
There's not a lot to talk about for the first 5 minutes. Not really.
Yeah, and I think I think honestly BYUN is one of those players that you really love to see in TVZ, because even though he does sometimes take a little bit to kind of warm up, he does kind of hit that stride once he starts hitting that 3 base, which by the way he did not get that third CC, which we do see a lot of Terran players kind of go for these days. Instead going to decide to go for a much more aggressive opening here. He's got his first drop coming across the map. The Hellions might come across to complement that as well. Not necessarily a Hellbat timing. But I think if REYNOR can hold on to the late game, that's where he's really going to be able to shine, because BYUN, for all his credit, he's a very aggressive, very cool player to see with his micro, but he skips the late game a lot of the time. Like, even when he doesn't mean to, he sometimes doesn't get those upgrades. He doesn't get the tech change. Right now, he's getting some pretty good damage done, denying a lot of that mining, as the Hellion's going to be coming across the map as well. But got to be careful not to lose this drop.
You know what, Pastor? I'm actually kind of surprised here, because I've seen this build from BYUN before, and I just kind of remembered exactly. As the Hellions will get their way into the third base, and well, REYNOR not exactly paying attention. 6 workers will go down before this round happens, and there we go. So Hellions will now go down as we see the drop going back on into the main base once again. BYUN trying to yank, REYNOR all over the place, will be unsuccessful. That drop will be forced out, and that one Marine, well, he will go down. But anyway, what I was talking about, yes, this is going to be this is going to be Banshee pressure out of this, but I gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised. I've seen this opener from BYUN before, and more often than not, it does turn into a Hellbat push behind this. You get like a Hellbat Banshee, Hellbat Marine, something like that, but that is not what BYUN is going for in this game. So I was like, ah, yes, this is what's happening. But I'm glad you kept talking. Saved me some embarrassment. What I will say, though, is I'm not sure I totally agree with this idea that BYUN is avoiding the late game. I think when he won Asus ROG, I mean, he showed some just absolute late game mastery. It was him and Mario that were honestly playing games that almost turtled to the late game. And said, you know what, I'm going to win there. I'm going to lose a couple workers, so I'm going to get up to like 160 army supply. And I'm just going to steamroll you with this army that, well, as a Zerg player, you just cannot contest. But you know what? That's just my read on things. BYUN, though, he is still trying to keep this pressure up, but now the medevac will just barely escape.
Yeah, and you really do want to kind of keep that first couple of medevacs alive, just because it is a real big gas sink if you're not able to. Might actually get these queens, but there is some transfuse energy to save them. Yeah, that is not going to go down. Going to do a little bit of pressure here on the 4th base, which was weakened by that drop, but unfortunately he does run out of energy here, so Banshees will have to get on out. And yeah, you were talking about how this a lot of the time does go into help, kind of that Hellbat timing. He uses them to complement his army. This time, though, he just decided to kind of dive in there, so that will not be the case this time, as the 3rd base not going to go down. So BYUN still at a little bit of a supply deficit. Not the biggest of deal, I might add.
Now, this is interesting, though. So REYNOR only just now getting his 1-1 on the way, because he's, well, not mined gas for a good portion of this game, trying to get his economy up, getting as many minerals as possible. And generally, coupled with this, when you see, oh yeah, it's pretty late upgrades, you see that coupled with a Spire. That being said, though, this is Pillars of Gold, and REYNOR, for this map more than any other, really likes his Hydroling Bane play, likes going on into the Lurker style, just because it's so run by. You can run by on this map so easily. You can get Zerglings into the bases. It works for him in terms of how he defends them. Because again, I don't think I've seen him play Mutas on this map in several months. I think it's just been primarily Hydroling Bane. But of course, well, before he can get onto that, he needs to be able to hold this pressure from BYUN. He needs to be able to hold the drop. He needs to make sure that he does not lose too much to the ensuing pressure. Bailing speed is done, though. And that will be massively in his favor, even if he will have to fight down upgrades for the time. Wait, what? Oh, now, okay, now Bailing speed is done. I thought I saw it finish earlier.
Yeah, interesting to note here. BYUN will have that upgrade lead for just a little bit of time here. As the 114 REYNOR is still finishing up. We do see the Sea Shanks sieging on up. They will get one connection on the Banelings, and that's actually enough to clean that up. So the Marines still going to be able to be a little bit aggressive, but even BYUN with his micro cannot focus down all those Banelings, so he will have to retreat.
Yeah, the Banelings, they're close enough to creep, and they're just not enough Marines there, so absolutely understandable. There we go. Hydra Den on the way. REYNOR, he's going into that style that he has made so famous over the previous months. More Banelings on the way, of course. 2-2 now getting started. The question, though, is this +1 ranged? Is this +2 melee? There are a couple ways you can go about it, depending on how you're feeling, depending on what you think is important in this game. Actually, I'm not exactly sure why you go one versus the other. You know,
I think it comes down to what you're going to have more of. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be going for the Ling ones because he's going to be focusing a little bit more on that. But yeah, BYUN, once again, going to try to find this location, but he doesn't actually have any medevacs, so he is going to have to retreat. Good focus fire right there. Going to kill off a ton of the Banelings, but we do see this kind of, this little bit of a seesaw attack. BYUN kind of just trying to keep the pressure off while he builds up that War Machine 3rd base. If you ever listened to Husky back in the day, he would say that 3rd base is where it's at for the Terran player.
Oh yes, the 3rd base is in the 12 o'clock position. Thank you, Passer, for that wonderful bit of information there. As BYUN, he's going to actually do a really good job targeting down 4 of those Banelings and then dropping single Marines to attempt to set a Baneling off. But now, REYNOR, he's too fast for that, says, no, this is not going to happen. Now, interestingly enough, this is going to be Hydroling Bane for a longer period of time. When REYNOR was first starting this style, or at least his next iteration was, yeah, okay, I drop a Hydra Den, I get enough Hydras to maybe buy myself enough Lurkers, but realistic, I'm dropping that Lurker Den as soon as the Hydra Den is done. Hydra Warren, anyway, I'm as soon as my Hydra Tech is done, I'm dropping the Lurkers, I'm dropping the Infestation Pit, I'm getting onto that. But no, REYNOR, realizing that there's a little bit too much pressure in this game to really get away with that, as the Infestation Pit is now on the way. And REYNOR doesn't necessarily want to take the fight the way he's doing it at the moment. There's a drop on the right-hand side as well.
Yeah, you know, I think REYNOR's starting to get to the point where these small little harassments aren't going to be doing as much just because he does have enough. He is going to dive right on top of this, but the Sea Tanks enough to push this back. REYNOR disengaging once again. We do see a small little bit of a parade push coming across some additional units. He's kind of banking up the reinforcements so that they don't get picked off by the Lings. And yeah, from here, I think BYUN is going to be a little bit more content to kind of just force REYNOR into remaking those units. But he does need to start to get on top of that economy because REYNOR on 90 drones. So he is going to be more than content to kind of just hang out, relax, do whatever the hell he wants.
Well, you got to remember, yes, Cyril, or wow, why do I keep calling Cyril REYNOR? I don't know, but yes, REYNOR's on 90 workers. But also, he's sitting here, he has traded half as well as his opponent. He's lost about 7,000 resources, 7,500 to the 3,500, 3,800 of REYNOR. So that's actually working pretty well in REYNOR's, in BYUN's favor here. And now we do have Hive, it's just about done. +1 range is on the way here. I'm surprised we don't see a Lurker Den on the way yet. And BYUN will be able to force a cancel on this 6th base of REYNOR's. Now he's moving on in a little bit further, forcing that that surround that Cyril had set, or excuse me, that REYNOR had set up for himself. Well, now it has to go defend this drop. That means that that push on the left-hand side will be that much more impactful for the time being. But now, of course, this drop will get cleaned up, and we should see the creep getting re-spread.
Yeah, it looks like REYNOR is just content to hang out with the Hydralisk. He does clean up the drop finally, so that is going to be a breath of fresh air. But he still has not been able to dive efficiently on this position here. The siege tanks getting their shots off, not really hitting the best of targets, so the Banelings will be able to move forward. But there's just so many Marines, and there are still a couple of siege tanks left. So BYUN, even though he is at a supply deficit right now, is going to be able to continuously push in here. A couple of decent Baneling connections, going to force him back. But I think he's still doing quite well in this position.
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, Pastor, keep your eye on the minimap. It looks like we have a full flank coming on in here, but no. REYNOR is actually, he's saying, look, I can hold this with what I have. I don't really care, as there's a big run by coming up onto the right-hand side in just about, well, 20 seconds, however long it takes for the Zerglings to find their way across the map. And this is maybe some equalizing damage for Cyril here immediately, but the sensor tower will alert BYUN to things. And, well, with this push coming on in here, with these 4 siege tanks finding their way on in, now we will see a couple of ducks, so most of these Banelings will go down, but REYNOR realized that, yeah, I can't get on in here. There's a tank there. There's too much of an army. That being said, though, it looks like he will be able to hold this push for the moment, and now, well, we're going to see some stuff going in. Only 2 workers go down, though.
Yeah, I think REYNOR has kind of held this position. He just needs to be a little bit patient with it. We did see the forced lift up there from BYUN. But we do see a couple more attacks, so BYUN really not going to let the pressure up. This is the kind of thing. Momentum, momentum, momentum. He never wants to give up that kind of pressure. He always wants to keep you on your toes. And even though he's done with this location for the moment, he's still going to get a snipe on that 6th base once again. And honestly, he's starting to get pretty far ahead. Like, I don't want to call him super ahead because REYNOR still is going to have that adrenal glands and +3, which is really good. But it's going to... I just don't know because BYUN's not giving him a moment to breathe. Oh, no.
All right, so now we have a Lurker Den on the way. Oh, 1 Viper will get targeted down immediately. Great job there from BYUN, as now he's going to split backwards. REYNOR cannot take this fight, not off creep as it is. And when we talk about creep, BYUN has done such a good job of delaying that creep, removing that creep in the middle of the map, as you do have this push coming on in once again. And REYNOR, he's sitting on a bank that he can't spend. It looks like he's a little bit larva-starved here because he lost so many queens in the defense. Now BYUN's going to step on here. The 5th base will go down. The question is whether REYNOR can trade well enough to make it worthwhile, as we do have a run by coming on into the 3rd base, but this is only +2 Zerglings at the moment. Adrenal Glands is not done. The rally of BYUN will be able to clear things off, and now BYUN, he's pushing in. REYNOR, he's only on 4 bases now. He is at economic parity with the Terran at 14 minutes into the game, as that is not a situation REYNOR wants to be in the slightest, especially considering how much more poorly he has been trading in this game. And yes, we do finally have the Lurker Den on the way, but this is so late that Lurker upgrades, they're going to be incredibly slow. And now BYUN, he's going to drop it into the main base. Doom drop away, my friends. Doom drop away.
Yeah, REYNOR's starting to fall apart. His main army is trying to fight on this side while also sending a ton of Hydralisks up. So while BYUN will have to kind of pick up, he's still going to reinforce his position with those siege tanks sieging up on the low ground. REYNOR was able to pick off a lot of reinforcements that were coming across the middle of the map, which is pretty good for him. But BYUN, with that 20 army supply lead, he's still aggressive. Like you said, 4 bases. I don't think you ever want to be at that position in this stage of the game. We do have Lurkerden, finally, by the way, that finished up. So he will start the upgrades on that, but I don't know, Beo. I don't think even the Lurkers can be enough to save this position here from REYNOR anymore.
Well, we do have 12 Lurkers on the way. Seismic Spines are just about halfway done. So there comes a moment where why do I keep saying Cyril? I don't know. Where REYNOR becomes kind of unpushable as now the Lurkers are done. And these are +1 Lurkers. They have some upgrades. I mean, they're not as scary as +3 Lurkers, but they're still a difficult force to push into. But 16, 17, 19, 20 drones have died. That nice high worker count that REYNOR has been able to rely on over the course of this game. Well, a lot of it is just gone down here. REYNOR, trying to take that base on the right-hand side, has been unable to do so. BYUN has just cut it off from the rest of the map. So REYNOR, he's going to attempt to retake the left-hand side, but I'm not convinced. That being said, though, REYNOR, we talked about that bank a second ago. Well, now it's being spent here as we're going up to a grand total of like 17 Lurkers. That's going to be a pretty impactful thing. Seismic Spines are done, of course. So it is going to be incredibly difficult for BYUN to be able to push into these bases of REYNOR now. And that being said, though, this is going to be a really good trade here from REYNOR in the mid game, as the Blinding Clouds will just make it so that the entire bio army of BYUN cannot really fight.
The basic way to fight Lurkers is to avoid them completely. And I think that's kind of what BYUN's trying to do. We saw him kind of get behind the mineral line where the Lurkers have to reposition, which, by the way, they don't have their little speedy legs yet. So, yeah, we're going to kind of see BYUN kind of rotate around here. He's got the... Oh, no, those siege tanks going to get caught out before they can even siege up. So REYNOR going to start to push his way forward with the Lurkers. There are quite a few of them with this. And yeah, you just got to be careful not to overextend here, as BYUN one bad fight onto the Lurkers, and it is GG, even though he has had such an amazing position this entire game. Scan going to go down.
You know,
go ahead.
I'm keeping my eye on resources lost here, and it's funny, you know, yes, REYNOR was down about 4,000 resources lost at like 8 minutes into this game. You're like, okay, man, he's not trading all that well, but... Well, at this point, it's only grown to 6,000, and we're starting to see that shrink just a little as REYNOR has hit this army composition that is just so powerful. And REYNOR now, he is getting a bit aggressive. Now, there is this drop going on into the natural, but we should see Lurkers. They do have group spine, or adaptive talent is now done, so they can defend properly. And now REYNOR here, despite the position he's been in this entire game, has he found his opening? Now, the Lurkers, they're not quite close enough, so the drop is actually getting a decent amount of damage done, but the tanks, they're not allowed to do anything. Not really. The Lurkers are getting some insane pot-off on the rally, and now BYUN, he's found his way on into the main base. We're getting a little bit base tradey here in this game number 1. The Hydrogen's going to go down, as is the Infestation Pit, so no more Hydras, which means eventually no more Lurkers, and that's problematic, but it looks like REYNOR, he will be able to get on top of the Terran production, and that is where things get really, really problematic here for BYUN. As well, if you can't produce anything, there's only so much you can do. BYUN, though, he has been able to take out the 5th base of REYNOR once again. He took out the 4th base of REYNOR. So REYNOR, he's not really mining at this point. He has to get everything done with this army, and this army alone, his 21 workers have died, and that drop from BYUN in the natural, well, it's not getting a whole lot done either. BYUN, though, he has been forced to lift. He's losing so much production, as we do see oodles and oodles of barracks go down outside of BYUN's, what is that, his 6th base? Is that still his 6th base? Is everything died? I don't really know. I don't know. Outlying base. We'll call it that way.
Count. I went to public school. I can't count that many bases. But yeah, we still see a ton of Lurkers coming in. BYUN actually didn't kill off the Hive, which is pretty interesting. So REYNOR will still be able to have that. But it looks like BYUN's going to try and engage into this. And again, you cannot engage into that many Lurkers and think you're fine. 11 workers going down. BYUN just going to tap out as his supply drops. GG and REYNOR, fantastic.
My God, REYNOR, like, he should not have won that game.
He should
Realistically,
not have.
He was so far behind. He was, you know, trading so inefficiently. He was losing every base. He was behind the Terran by multiple bases by the end of that game. But when you camp the economy, when you just hit that timing that is so insanely strong, no matter when it is in the game, well, BYUN, he just kind of got steamrolled. It was just that one, you were talking about this. Yeah, BYUN's ahead, but if he takes one bad fight against that Lurkers, the game just kind of ends. And that is exactly what happened. He just lost too much to, what was it, something like 17 Lurkers, as all those the spines all together, they do a lot of damage. They just shred pretty much everything, even if they're only on +1. And BYUN, well, even though he did knock out 2 bases, you know, he kept denying that 6th base. You take that one fight, you get your production camped.
You know
It
what?
just kind of happens.
I think that actually just proved my point that BYUN sometimes skips the later stages of the game because you know what his army was? It was Marines. It was Marauders. It was Siege Tanks. No Libs, no Ghosts. If he had some Snipes in there, if he had some Liberation Zones just kind of zoning out those Lurkers, I think he would have been in a much better position. So that tech transition just not really happening for him. So yeah, I think the chat is saying it the best here. The only way to win in that situation is to win before the Lurkers come out when you're not transitioning like that. But we are going to be hopping into Death Aura for game number 2. So let us introduce these lovely players. Spawning in the bottom position here, up a game, looking to close things out. He is REYNOR.
And in the upper left, the crowd favorite, he is the Blue Terran. He's BYUN. And you know what, Pastor? I apologize for that dead airspace. I'm sitting here like, yes, we're into game number 2. I'm gonna let him say what he says, and then we're gonna go on into player introductions. I don't want to delay that too much, but instead I just let you kind of sit there. Is he gonna say something or? But you know what? I'm not. Oh,
sometimes dead airspace can be good because it lets the players lets the chat just kind of catch up and enjoy some fun moments of the game. But yeah, don't worry about it. Like, we're still figuring this whole casting duo thing out. We're not on Taste Hostess level yet.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not sure I totally agree with this idea that just kind of win before Lurkers, because Terrans have absolutely figured out how to win before Lurkers, and I think what happened in that last game, because BYUN has shown an incredible ability to play Ghost Liberator tank. He is really big. Ooh, it's getting spicy here. 19 Roach attack coming on in here from REYNOR. Or 19 drone Roach attack will be what we got coming on in here. So REYNOR hoping to kick the Terran while he's down, to paraphrase chat saying something else. And that's what we're going to see here on Death Aura. So that's going to be pretty cool. But to finish my thought before things get too dicey here, BYUN was incredibly up on things. He was in such a good position. He had a massive economy lead. He had a army supply lead. He had an upgrade lead. And sometimes it's very easy to tunnel vision in that situation, where you're like, look, I am so close to breaking through my my opponent here. I don't need to go into this higher form of tech. I think that's what happened, where realistically, BYUN, if he didn't get his production camp, I think he does win that game. So that was Cyril fighting the one path to victory, or wow, REYNOR finding the path to victory. You know what? It's good Zerg player, Cyril REYNOR. Are they any different? They absolutely are.
Well,
but
one's Italian, one's
on the
Finnish. One's Italian, one's Finnish. That's kind of a big differential there.
Hold on, Pastor. I'm not finished. I'm not Italian either, so I don't know.
I make some good Italian food, just like REYNOR is going to be cooking up some spicy Italian cooking right now with this Roaches coming across the map. And yeah, BYUN hasn't really seen this because guess what? He does skip the Reaper nowadays. And yeah, this is the one time when I think a Reaper would be pretty useful.
Yeah, and I think this actually may be the Hellbat timing we were talking about a bit earlier, because, again, we do have reactored Hellions coming out in here. They're going to be a little bit earlier. That's actually a really fast medevac. So, yeah, I think this is going to be the Hellbat timing once again. And when you move on in with this much, and there's just a couple of Hellions to defend, yeah, REYNOR is going to be a little bit happy about what he sees here, is there's just not a whole lot to defend. And more importantly, BYUN has dropped a rich supply depot, whatever you want to call it. That supply depot is worth a lot more than the standard. And that means when that supply depot goes down, as it invariably does, because we do have 3 Ravagers on the map, well, BYUN will be absolutely supply blocked, as that is the case. Now we do have the Hellions going on forward. Really nice micro here from REYNOR to keep his Ravagers alive. Wow, he's still keeping them alive. They're all 2 of them are like 5 HP. And REYNOR, he's just taking some incredibly cost-effective trades. What do we have on the map for BYUN at this point? 1 Marine, 1 Hellion? Yeah, this actually just may be game-ending damage. The Ravager, he's still alive. The 2 hero SCVs doing what they can, but I'm not convinced that is worthwhile. The Hellion goes down, and is this just game for BYUN at this point? Is this just a kind of a build order win? Yeah, it is. GG,
yeah.
REYNOR. He's going to take the series 2-0.